this year. And I'm going to let Jason talk about it because he was there to present it, because Bernhard Stober was not able to make it, but nonetheless.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar with the AWCI Fellow Award, this is the top award that AWCI presents to an individual that has met, and in this case, as many of our fellows have, exceeded a number of criteria. Some of those criteria are going to be working on a committee in AWCI. That is going to be an individual that has spent a substantial amount of time working with their community, aka other watchmakers or clockmakers, and then also has taken part in a number of educational initiatives. Mr. Stober knocked each one of these out of the park. If you've known Bernhard, you've known a friend. He's an amazing, amazing individual. I was able to go and present, along with our good friend Drew Zimmerman, the award to Drew Bernhard this last Friday. So before I go too far down the road, one of the first comments that he made during this presentation was it was a humbling experience for him to be able to receive this award. He does not feel up to nor adequate with it, which to me says an awful lot about the man's stance and his presentation and how he comes across to other individuals. An absolutely stalwart individual. The other thing that he said was all of the years that he's worked with education, it's been about building relationships with people more than it has been about the horology that he has shared with others. And I felt like that was also a very stalwart conversation to have with this gentleman. Very, very well-deserving an award for this man. As many individuals do, Mr. Stober's health is not where Mr. Stober nor we would like to see it right now, and he wasn't able to be here with us this weekend, but I was so grateful that I was able to go along with a number of his friends and present this award to him last Friday evening. So he was absolutely blown away by receiving this. So even though he's not here with us, I'd love to award him a round of applause from the group. A true head count, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that there have been 30 fellow awards bestowed upon individuals in our 65-year history. This is not an award that's given out every year. It's an award that's given out to extremely well-deserving individuals, and Mr. Stober definitely falls into that part. So if you have the opportunity to meet with him, what's that? Yeah, absolutely. We've got actually Alice Carpenter's up here on top of the display. This room is actually named after Alice Carpenter, which was also a fellow to that. So any fellows that are in the room, please raise your hand. I know we've got Jack here that's a fellow of AWCI. Please. He's done a lot for the Institute over the years as well, and again, a good friend. So there's absolutely a lot that we owe these individuals as an institution. So if you ever have an opportunity to meet Bernhard, it's an opportunity to meet a friend. I'll turn the time over now to David.
Thank you all for coming. First thing I want to do before I forget is thank you guys, you employees, for everything you did to put this together. I'm looking at everything here, from the way it looks outside to the new electronics you guys put into the technology. It's just so far advanced from last year. It's indicative of where we are as an institution. We're really moving forward. We have 2 new employees this year. Sheila Edwards, who works in the office with James, and Jason Ziegenbein. Jason has joined Jason Champion as teacher, and it's been an exciting year. The Jasons have completed what's a specialist program that we were launching. Put a lot of hours of work into it. It looks pretty good. The mobile classroom was on the road every week from third week of May to the first week of November, right? Except for this week. Yeah. For us, that's a huge triumph because it's been a long time in coming. And these guys have just, all of them, James included, just put in an enormous amount of hours to get us where we are. When we were hiring Jason Ziegenbein, told him your work's going to get harder, not less hard. You're going to have more work to do with another employee. And, you know, I think we could keep another one busy already. But I can't tell you how grateful we are for that. In almost every metric we can measure, we're moving forward. We're gaining membership. Our program is expanded thanks to these guys. Just everywhere I look, we're having totally different conversations in our meetings than we were last year, the year before, the year before. Every year we're going forward. It's good to be part of that. I mean, I can't tell you how grateful I am for everybody that pushes on that. This meeting is, I think, the fourth year now we've done it here. And Justin Harrell's idea to bring it here, coming out of COVID. And I thought it was a great idea. We enjoyed it so much the first year, we just continued the format. And every year I think we can't do it that well again. And the next year comes, and I got to tell you, I'm excited about the group of presenters we have this year once again. And once again, a lot of them I call my friends, you know. But the skills, the abilities, they convince me that the American craftspeople take a back seat to no one in the world. You know, we may do it differently. I facetiously say that American craft is fueled by nicotine and beer and is mostly done underground. But the skills are crazy, and I think you're going to see American horology emerge in the next few years as important. It's already, the structure for it's already there. And it's my hope to see AWCI continue to be part of that, become more and more a part of that. And big on our list is to increase our ability to teach things like case finishing, have a world-class setup for case finishing, and then on the heels of that, I hope we can start building our machine shop. We've got the space for it over here. It's a very big room, 2 rooms actually, and I think we got a lot of momentum behind us, and our program is coming up with it. They got the the professional classroom is ready to go. We got the technology in the classroom. BICO has given us the benches we need, correct? We're still waiting for a couple?
They're in Indianapolis on a train, and we're going through customs as we speak.
So if you haven't seen the classroom, there are 4 benches. We've got 2 more coming, but at that point, then we had a room devoted to professional level classes. So, and that is, that's exciting. You know, again, it's a triumph. It's a triumph of will, if nothing else. But the idea we have, I don't know if it's where we'll end up, but I believe it is. So we're going to take the break room and we're going to turn that into a finishing room for cases and bracelets. And we're going to move the break room. And you know, how fast we get to that depends on how fast money comes in. But we believe it's a direction we need to go. And we're excited to see that. And one thing after another, we're going to keep moving forward. And somehow I think we'll continue to have meetings like this with the quality of speakers and the quality of presenters. It's astounding. And again, a lot of them I call friends. I've never met, I can't say it right, Rune, right? Rune. Rune, I met Rune online, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. Communicated a lot online. I've been watching the work he does on watches, I've been more and more impressed. And one of the elements you have to have if you're going to succeed in watches is you or any art really, is you need a recognizable style. Your work has to be recognizable as distinct and individual. And in a world where, in the homogeneous world we live in, a world where everything seems to look the same, his watches really stand out. You know, I look at your watch, I know it's your watch. You know, nobody else's is like it. And it's distinctive, and whether you like it or not is another story. I happen to really like it. But, what are you, 35 now? Yeah. You know, and we talked, I think it was last year, about that 10. You know, it's like going to Texas and not seeing a Cadillac with horns on the hood, I got to tell you. But other than that, we'll let you off. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm excited to see what he has to show.
Oh, cool. Yeah, perfect. Well, welcome to my little talk about myself, which is a very weird thing to say. My name is, as you mentioned, Rune Bakkendorff, my full name. I'm from Denmark, and it's a big honor to be here at AWCI because for a long time during my education and my search for knowledge, I've come across a lot of publications from this institution, and yeah, it's weird to be asked by said institution to come and speak about oneself. And as David also mentioned, I'm from Denmark, so I hope I'm understandable, at least in English. I feel like I'm okay, but if there's anything, you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at the end of the presentation or just during these days. I'll be here all days, and if you want to see some watches, I brought some of my watches. Not the clock because it's very big, very heavy, and I got an estimate to move it, and it's way too expensive. So if we talk about watches and clocks and me, then the story is both very interesting and very boring because it's very simple. I've always wanted to be a watchmaker and a clockmaker. Dials, all instruments with moving dials and things has fascinated me since I was a child. And a favorite story in my family is that usually children, they say daddy or mommy or something like that, and I said ur, which is the Danish word for clock and watch. That was my first word. So I really feel like that somehow this youthful interest pointed me towards my métier, and I really feel like I ended up at the right thing, because you really need passion like this to succeed in this very narrow and very difficult field to work in that I try to work in, because the work is not easy. Everybody that has tried, you know, as a young pupil apprentice to put in pallets in a watch movement or oil the lifting surfaces, it's grueling, it's stupid, and you have to keep going and going before you get the hang of it, and it would be insane to keep doing it if it wasn't fueled by something like a passion. But when you have the passion, it's fulfilling work, and that's why I keep going. So my education and the route to it is very simple, because I wanted to be a watchmaker. So my whole education was just aimed towards that. So when I was ending the public school we have in Denmark until 9th grade, there's a week where you do something called work experience. You go out and do some job. And I took out the phone book. They still had phone books back then. I just put watchmaker, clockmaker, and I started calling people, and most of them were just like, oh, no, yeah, maybe, da 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 da. And one of the guys was less disinterested than the others. So I thought, okay, I'll take some of these things I've been playing with in my little home workshop. I bought some small tools, and I did, and I went and I talked with him, and he agreed to let me stay there for a week to try and actually work as a watchmaker. And it was a small, nice little workshop that did everything itself. It didn't do trade work or send things out. He believed in doing everything for yourself, and it really opened up a new it opened up a new dimension to this thing, because I've been reading English literature as good as I could as a 15-year-old, and I've found maybe some books in Swedish, and there was nothing really in Danish. And now I actually saw this thing that was my interest unfolding as a way of supporting yourself, and it was very eye-opening for me. So after I did this work experience, I went to the school, because it was the end of 9th grade. I needed to figure out what's the next step. So I went to the school, and in Denmark there's a school run by, like a trade school run by the government, but overseen by the employers and the unions. It's a whole system. And it's a 4-year education, and you have a master, so you go into an apprenticeship, and you do like a portion at the school, then you go back to your apprenticeship, and you switch back and forth during these 4 years. So I went there, and it was like a whole new world, because there were actually like lathes and big machines, and there were people sitting filing stuff, and it was really what my early idea of it. It was really like the early idea of what a watchmaker did. It was unfolding in front of me, so I was really fired up. But at the end of it, they proposed to me, you can start right now. There are no requirements to start this education, but we really think it would be better if you had some technical knowledge, just to have a better foundation. And they proposed something called HTX, which is short for Higher Technical Examination, which is kind of like upper secondary school, but without all the liberal arts removed and only STEM. So it's very much geared towards engineering and stuff like that. So I went to HTX, and I graduated HTX. And when you graduate, you get this nice little hat. And so it's not fuzzy, and it doesn't have any horns, but you go out drinking afterwards. It's a good thing.
Does your wristband have horns? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's true. I enjoy that type of music, and it was more obvious back then, youthful. So after I finished HTX, military service is mandatory in Denmark, but there are too many males for what they actually need. So you go to this day at a military base where they measure everything about you. They measure your intelligence, and they show you all the great opportunities in the military. And my father was very keen on that, because I come from a military family. But in all honestness, I really just wanted to be a watchmaker. So luckily, if you can say that, you go in and you do literally a lottery. You pull out a thing with a number, and if the number is over a certain limit, you're free, and if it's below that, you have to go in. And I drew something way higher, so I could start actually going to school, and that really changed everything, because now I've used all this time studying maths and physics and chemistry and all these things, and you use a lot of energy studying, even if it's not really something that you're really passionate about. You have to use a lot of energy, but now all this energy could be guided towards my passion, which was watchmaking and clockmaking. I use those kind of interchangeably because it's one education in Denmark. You do everything, so you're both a watchmaker and a clockmaker, even though they kind of are separate skills. But this access to both guiding my energy towards this, and also, like, now I got books written in Danish. I learned terms I've read in English books. I learned them in my own language, and it was really, it was so energizing. And I remember just jumping in head first, diving into studying. I met a friend there who also started, who was equally engaged, and we really riled each other up to really go for it. And I ended up just plowing through the curriculum. In like 1/3 through, we were done with all the things, and we were like, oh, what can we do next? And I stayed weekends working, and I thought, now I have a possibility to like use all my time on watches and clocks. I don't have to make any money, because my apprenticeship pays me a salary, and I really just want to go through with this. And to some teachers' joy and others' misfortune, we went up and we were like, what can we do now? What can we do now? And we really tested some of them, and they had to find out some really old books, and we got to work on a lot of different things, and it really helped me and set the tone for the rest of my career, where I really like looking up new information and learning new skills. So that is really, actually, somehow people come to me and ask me for advice, which is a very new thing for me, because I've been the one seeking advice all the time. But that's one of the things when young pupils come to me, or apprentices. I say, you have to look up more than just the curriculum. The curriculum is the bare minimum, and you can really find a lot of things there. And depending on your interests, you really have to go far beyond it, because at least in Denmark, school is not as it used to be in the good old days. So there's a lot less like working with machinery and micromechanics and stuff. But the skills are still there. So if you search for them, you'll find them, and that's actually like the most crucial thing with learning a skill like watchmaking and clockmaking. So when I started the school, I actually had my apprenticeship, and I was the only one that had an apprenticeship, because usually when they start, they want to be watchmakers, they go in, but the place where I did work experience offered me an apprenticeship. So I met up at the school, and I was ready to just do some work, and all the others had to write applications, find an apprenticeship, and and I could really just get going. And as I told earlier, it was a very good workshop to work at. It was a small rural type in a smaller city, and we got a lot of stuff, and he didn't believe in sending things out, so we did a lot of things ourselves. And in Denmark, at least with clocks, 70%, 80%, something like that, is either tall case clocks from the 1800s. Even though we are 6 million people, I think there are 12 million of these clocks, because they are endless. And then normal German work from the 1900s. So that is really what you'll see and what you'll work on. And there are lots of techniques and things you can learn and you have to do on these. And actually, as time goes on, the things from the 1800s, they are really getting quite worn out in some sense. So some of the stuff they did when they wrote the books 50 years ago, you have to do a lot more today to really make a good runner. Not just keeping it ticking, but actually keeping time. But I digress. But I was so lucky that my master was contacted by something called the Museum of National History, which is in the city, where the workshop was, and they were looking for somebody to clean a clock that had stopped working. It was a very old clock from the 1600s. I looked for a picture, but I could only find this very through the site. It's an ironwork movement from the 1600s. It's been at least reworked 2 times. It's been converted to an anchor escapement. It has most of the train replaced at some point, but they were asking just for cleaning and making it work. And he obliged, and he set me to actually work on it and help work on it and writing the reports and doing the research. And we got some strict guidelines, like from the museum, like you have to register all this, you have to make a report, and you have to save all the scraps, and we need to catalog and da 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 da. It was a whole process, and this process really fascinated me because you could really dive deep down into the object and the techniques. And now it wasn't so much as I need to get this working to get some money. You still need to get this working to get some money, but the goal was also like to register and try and preserve some of it. And it really made me think about ancient work and the work that former clockmakers did and masterpieces from earlier, and how many different dimensions there were in a clock. Because now we had to look at the surfaces and the tool marks, and there's this painted section that's very fragile, and I realized this is so much more than just a mechanical object. It's also an artistic object. It's also it fits in with this part of history. It's very recognizable for this part, and this idea of the perfect field came to me. I really feel like horology is the perfect field. It has craftsmanship, engineering, history, design, and it's linked with symbolism, one of the biggest symbols like of human nature, which is time, and it's been intertwined with power from churches and kings and all this. So this idea of horology being like all-encompassing somehow, it began showing into me, and conserving this for future generations seemed like such a good idea, and actually much more than just helping a customer or helping a museum. You were actually helping society as a whole by conserving this for the future, and I didn't really know it back then, but it ended up setting my path in a direction for my work ongoing. So during my school time, during the 4 years, you have one study trip going to Switzerland. You go and you visit different workshops and factories, and we visited stuff like Audemars Piguet, Girard-Perregaux, and then like Ronda and Maurice Lacroix, and it was really like a whole breadth of things, from like super mass production, just stamping machines, chucking out parts, to some guys polishing a tourbillon cage in a 3 bridges pocket watch or something like that. But we also visited an independent watchmaker called Thomas Prescher, and it was actually an idea that me and my friend we suggested to our teacher trying contacting him because he's posting a lot online, and we were following along, and it was very interesting to see all this work. And he said, yeah, sure, you can come and see, and our whole class went and see him. And before I continue that, this is not a very good speaking technique, but I'll have a little detour because some of the extracurricular work we did was a project between the goldsmithing school, which was in Copenhagen, and then the School of Watchmaking and Clockmaking, which is outside Copenhagen, let's say, where a watchmaking student was put with a jeweler student, usually goldsmith, maybe silversmith as well. But we had to do like a new watch. So the goldsmith was working on the case in collaboration with the watchmaker, and the watchmakers was working on a movement based on the Unitas pocket watch. And we ended up making a pocket watch I'll show you in a second. But when we went to Switzerland, back at the beginning again, I asked Thomas, we're doing this project, I'm making these watches. Well, we were 3 people doing it. Can we ask you some questions? And he was very open. He really enjoys lifting up young people and lighting the flame of this field. So he was, yeah, of course. And so we sat down and we talked about what our ideas was, and he talked about what is actually possible, and this is going to be too thin, and this one, if you make this a bit thicker, you can pick it up, and a lot of like real world, very practical advice. And I really had a lot of help and advantage of doing it. So when we were finished with this project, I had made this watch, which is with somebody called Therese, which is she's a goldsmith now and has her own workshop in another part of Denmark. So I skeletonized the back, and I built on a moon face, something that I now see has a lot to do with what I'm really interested in. I didn't realize it back then. But after we finished this is the back side. I said to Thomas, can I keep, if I have something else to do, because I was really like looking forward to what's the next thing I can do. Can I ask you for advice? And he was like, of course, no problem. Just email me. I'll try and answer as quick as I can. And we ended up talking a lot back and forth about a lot of things. And when we were nearing the graduation, he actually said, well, now you're finishing school soon. Maybe you want to come work with me. So it was like it was an insane proposition to me, going to Switzerland, working with a guy who does very high-end stuff. So of course I said yes, and I graduated. And I might add, I got a perfect score on my final exam, which means that the Copenhagen Associations of Craftsmen award you a silver medal, because the gold medal it's not for apprentices, it's for masters. So I got a silver medal, and I got to meet the Queen, Her Majesty Queen Margaret II. So here I am shaking her hand, a very big moment in my life. It was, and also in my grandmother's life. She really enjoyed seeing that. Oh yeah, no. There are a lot of rules about that. I got a whole sheet with how to act. It's an insane thing, and I usually go there attending like through my work in the watchmaking guild. We go and we look at it, and it's always a party. It's really a celebration of craftsmen, and so it's a very good thing. And the support of the royal house really helps to make it like a more ceremonial thing. It really adds to it. But I ended up going to Switzerland, and I worked with Thomas. And this time I think I had 3 really formative times in my education and early career, and this is one of them, because Thomas had some health problems before I came, so he had taken down a quite big company to only himself, and now he was starting back up again. So I was the only other guy, and he really just put me in everything. So he was like, okay, it's not a good idea I have everything in my head. We need to write it down. So now I'll tell you to make a part. When you can make the part, you describe how you made it, and we write it down. So I was doing this learning on the go and documenting as well. And it meant that I was into everything. It was very eye-opening to me, because you have this idea when you see commercials for watchmakers of these craftsmen looking out into the mountains of Switzerland, filing away 3 files and poetically look dramatically out, and somehow a watch appears. And it's nothing like that. It's actually very hard work. And if you're running a company like this, it's like 40% of the time you are actually doing work on a watch, and the rest of the time you're talking with suppliers, you're talking with like public bureaucracy, deliveries, tax things, custom things, all these things. So it really opened my eyes to how a business like that is run, and it's not always clean and easy. I think you have a saying like dirty hands clean money. I think we can say something about something with a face here. But not only did I learn about how the company is run, I also realized, which I feel like it's a simple realization, but I realized that everything is made. So if it's broken, you can just make it again. And it seems very logical. It's like, obviously, duh. But when you stand before some clock, it can be very simple. It can be insanely complicated. But if you figure out what is broken, and if you have some repair technique, and you can do this and this, but if everything fails, you'll just make it again. Somebody made it now, you can make it again. And this really instilled some sort of what I call professional courage. I became a bit dumb, actually, because I said yes to everything. I was like, of course you can make it. Somebody produced it, so of course we can repair it. And this attitude, at least in the early part of my career as a self-employed watchmaker, it was really formative, also about boosting this learning thing, because it puts you in some situations where you really need to learn something because you're way out. So the other thing in Switzerland I did was also begin to work on my professional network, because when you're someplace where there is a lot of people working, and it's not a long time ago, but it's like 11, 12 years now, and in the last 11, 12 years, independent watchmaking has really changed. And since COVID, it has like skyrocketed. But before that, it was still a bit weird in some sense. And people were still a bit picky about like, oh, I don't want to, he'll steal my customer and all this. So you really needed to like forge a network, and it wasn't as easy as it is today. But I started the work there, and this is also something that had helped me and was going to help me for the duration of my career. So I went back to Denmark again, and I had to do something. So I started a company with one of my friends from watchmaking school, and we did a lot of trade work. We're a central workshop for a lot of different stores, and also we did some after sales for a lot of these brands that know nothing, people that have no experience in the business, and they're like, we're going to make a watch. So, and they just import some stuff, and then some doesn't work, and they're like, what do we do? Send them a new one, and everything, it turns very bad very quickly. So we were like, okay, if somebody says something is broken, send it to us. we'll fix it, we'll report it to the producer, and like normal after sales. And we did that for a lot of companies. But we also did a lot of repairs, just normal trade repairs. And there are a lot of joy, but also a lot of challenges when you're starting out. And I think back to that time fondly now, because in hindsight, everything is sweet. But back then it was kind of hard. Not having enough work to fill out the day, you were worried about what should I do here, and you tried to get work from other places, and you took in work you shouldn't have taken in, and it really taught me a lot about like plowing through, grinding, and perseverance. And it also taught me a lot about the joys that come from that. I remember the first time we made an invoice for $1,000, the equivalent, and we were like over the moon. It was the most insane feeling. We were rich now. And these ups and downs, it builds character in some sense, at least in business. But utilizing this professional courage I was talking about earlier, I said yes to everything. It also filled out my order book, which is a good thing. But you also, I paid it off so much in extra time. I cannot count the amount of repairs where I quoted something and I figured maybe I was 100 hours off. So we don't have minimum wage in Denmark, but the equivalent would be something like 0 wage in this. But it really was learning experience. And it also gave me a reputation of a guy that really, at least in some circles, that actually solves problems. If everybody says no, send it to Rune. He'll fix it somehow. And I ended up getting a lot of work. And surprisingly, a lot of people have very important and historically interesting clocks. Just normal people. It's weird that some old lady in a little town has a clock which could have been in a castle or a museum, but they end up somehow. And usually they like the clock, but this is an example of an early bracket clock which was from some private person. And usually they're like, oh, it's grandma's clock, so I guess it's kind of nice if it's not too expensive to get repaired. So if you combine that with a guy who underestimates and overestimates his own skills, it's the perfect match, because it's like, yeah, I'll fix it for $200. It's no problem. But the thing is, it really started me on this path of getting better and better work, because people realized that there was some things that they couldn't get fixed anywhere else, but you could get it fixed here. So slowly all of this normal standard work became less and less interesting, but there was a lot of it, because I say a lot of people have these interesting clocks. There are a lot more people who have boring clocks. So I tried really to focus in on these important clocks, because they reminded me of the work I did as an apprentice with the Museum of National History, and it also reminded me of the work I did with Thomas, where we actually manufactured things, because if it's a very valuable clock, there's usually a lot of resources to fix it right, or at least do it in some sense. So I tried scoping it out, and at some point I took one of the advices I got when I was in Switzerland from Thomas Prescher, and it was, if you're starting out and you want to do something special like creating your own watch, it's very easy. You do 8-8, so you work 8 hours earning money, and then you work 8 hours doing your clock or your watch. And I said, okay. So I sold my part of the company I had with my friend, and I started out, I sold it back to her, so she was the sole proprietor, and I started my own workshop. And I started to focus in on conservation work. I utilized my network and making good work speak for itself, and it's a very closed off thing. I don't know really how it is in the US, but all these institutions, they only use trusted individuals. So it was a long dance of making a clock, doing something, getting your name mentioned, and then speaking with somebody, they speak with somebody, and then through the years you end up actually doing better and better work and getting better and better customers. And so I've worked a lot I've done some very interesting clocks. Like this is one of my favorites, and it's actually at the Museum of National History. It's a Lippert sculpture clock with a year calendar on top, and it's insane. Everything is every steel part, even the barrel arbors are fully hardened and black polished and everything. It's insane. And I worked on a Breguet table clock, silver case for carrying with a tourbillon. So who would have thought that I could actually touch like a real Breguet tourbillon, which is also mind-blowing to me. This was a pocket chronometer by one of the Jürgensen family from a very famous author in Denmark, and it's in a museum. And all this work is both interesting and inspiring. And the Copernican sphere of Gottorp, which I literally just finished, luckily the sphere itself was functional, but the movement inside, it's like a giant pocket watch, giant Verge pocket watch. And the chain broke, and it's not a small spring, it's like it's a barrel like this, and this height in the middle and 2 springs, and this chain has whipped around and broken things, and yeah, it was a whole mess, but stuff like that, which really feels both important and inspiring, and it really like scratches the itch of like clockmaking. But when you work, at least when I worked on this, all this conserving of past masters to the future, it really inspired me, and it also like pushed me a bit like, oh, you need to, I like helping keep this history for the future, but could I put just one little dot? That would be my purpose would feel fulfilled if I could put one dot, which means I had to create something like we worked on in Switzerland with Mr. Prescher. So I started experimenting with doing cases, because I thought, okay, you could set out and do everything at once, or you could be smart and actually like figure out how can I make a case, and take all the things. It's manageable to have 10 watches with a case where there's something wrong, and then later you can do something else and build on it. So I found a big box of new old stock Peugeot movements. The 7001 is a lovely movement. I really enjoy it, and I thought they need a home somehow. So I began working and experimenting with the aesthetics, with the construction also, but mostly the aesthetics, because I felt like I wanted to do something authentic. So I was thinking, okay, I'm Danish. There's a lot of Danish design traditions, at least modern, simple. And then I was like, okay, I really have an interest for pre-Christian Scandinavia and the Vikings and the culture, because actually it's a quite vivid culture with a lot of ornamentics and stuff like that. And I tried incorporating all this, but also some of my own experiences. So, for example, when working in Switzerland, Thomas had some cases in bronze, so I did watches with bronze cases. And this material and this combination of bronze and steel, it really spoke to me. I had experience with it, so I tried incorporating this. And it ended up being my first watch, which was called Byrja, and Byrja is Old Norse for beginnings, which I found very fitting. but when I saw the result, I was actually quite proud. And I would have been proud for any watch that works and any case that's waterproof. And like, I felt there was something more. I felt like, okay, you're onto something. You're not just doing something that looks kind of like a Daniel's watch or kind of like an FP Schuren or something like that. It feels like you did something. Maybe people won't like it, but it feels like you. And this, like me. And it really set the tone for this must be the right way to conceive of watches. So this is also one of the things that I tell, actually also some apprentices, but because some of them, they go into watchmaking school wanting to make a watch, and I tell them, slow down, work a bit, get some experience, also seeing different things. But what I tell people who are like, oh, I want to do a watch, I tell them, look inwards and think about what is you, what is authentic to you, because a lot of watches are, it's 3 hands and a dial. How many variations can you do on that? And if you look inwards, and not only just on other watches, but also maybe on some literature you like, or some art you like, or something like that, there are some experiences that you can somehow maybe interpret in some sense, and you'll get a much better product. And I'll. This is these are the ones that I did. The big one was the very first one I did. It's 42 millimeters. It's like the one I'm wearing here. This is the very first one I did. I later did one smaller because a lot of guys are they're not so self-confident about the size of their wrist, so they're afraid of big watches, so they want something smaller. But so I had to make, well, not had to, I was asked to make a 38 millimeter, and it turned out very great actually. So, and I've brought one of each so that you can see.
Now I'm going to feel bad trying the small one on.
You have nothing to be worried about. No, but another thing that really formed my career and my work was I was asked by Warner Brothers of all companies to be in a TV show. I think you might know a very slow-paced British show called The Repair Shop, and they wanted to do a Danish adaptation. And at first I was like, I had some of the same thoughts as when David asked me, oh, can you come to the AWCI and give a presentation about yourself? I was like, no, not really. But then you need to be visible, and every time you do something outwardly focused, it develops you and all these things. So I ended up saying, you cannot say no to exposure on like national TV just because you don't want to. So I took it up as a challenge, and it ended up being a very great experience. I met a lot of people, and it was great exposure. I got inundated with work afterwards. But what I didn't realize was how much it boosted my network. The network that I've been building and trying to keep and to help, and they help me, I help them around. And a lot of this was boosted by this because I met a lot of very good craft people, and I got visibility in all of Denmark. But one of the people I met was a carpenter, cabinet maker called Sine Lund. She's around my age, more or less, and we didn't do a lot together in the show, but between filmings we were sitting and talking because I was interested in design, and she was working with a furniture company. She has like a design studio with with a furniture architect where they do a lot of very interesting furniture. And I had this idea that I've thought a lot about, and I was discussing it with her, that tall case clocks have tanked in value, usually because people don't use it in their interior decorating. At least that's part of it. And my claim is that there is a lot of furniture which is as useless as a tall case clock that is still very highly valued, and there's a lot of modern interpretations of. And the only reason that tall case clocks really aren't that popular in interior decorating today is because there are no designers working on tall case clocks making new ones. There are no companies producing them, and so there are no magazines doing some nice pictures with this interior, and and you can put this clock here and all this. And Sina agreed on some sense. She was like, yeah, I think that's true. We should do a clock. And I was like, yeah, we should do a clock. I was really like, the creative urges was just like, yeah, we should. And then all of a sudden, the possibility just came, because in Denmark, there's something called the Cabinet Makers Autumn Exhibition, where they do a lot of, every year they exhibit a new piece of furniture. So the members of the academy each bring some furniture they made, and this year that was coming, the theme was called Time, Tact, and Tone. And they were like, it's made for a clock. Shouldn't we do a clock? And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. We should do a clock. And she was like, okay, it's February. The exhibition is in November. I was like, that is not enough time to make a clock. But I took up the challenge, and we started working on it. And this whole project I'll talk about on Saturday. This is my lovely little movement. It's a tall case clock working month going regulator, only displaying the phases of the moon. So this is sped up. So it works with light and shadow. So the movement moves this shadow caster around to cast the moon phase. But the thing that it really did for me, other than just being a great experience, was it really put me on the map as someone that is a creative watchmaker that actually produced something. Because a lot of people can do drawings. A lot of them can also do construction and 3D renders, and they can have all these ideas, but actually creating something is another hurdle. There are many hurdles in creating a watch. One of them is thinking of it, one of them is constructing it, one of them is making it, and then one of them is selling them. So there are all these hurdles, but this really pushed me forward and got me some visibility and even expanded my network even more. And this network led me for my latest project, which is this wristwatch here called Ed. So the first one was Byrja, which was beginnings, and Ed means lineage or bloodline and direction, which I found was very fitting, because this whole project is about reviving Copenhagen horological DNA. But through this network, a guy knew a guy, and he knew a collector, and he was like, I just bought a watch from a guy and I want another one. Can you make a watch? And I was like, yeah, I do this watch. And he's like, no, something, we need more oomph, like movement, something. I was like, okay, let's dive into my notes. And I have this notebook I keep with all the different inspirations, and you get a lot when you work on ancient clocks. And one of the things I thought about was this turret clock movement, which is in Copenhagen, made by a guy called Jens Olsen, who made a very insane clock called the World Clock, which is in Copenhagen City Hall. If you're ever there, you should go. It's free to enter. But most of you probably know, turret clocks are inside the building, the dials are outside the building, so the turret clock keeper, he winds the clock, and he has to set the time, and he has no way of seeing it outside, so they put a little dial inside. Jens, he put 2 revolving dials and a set of stationary hands. And when I saw that, I was like, that's cool. That would look insane on a watch. And the collector agreed when he saw the sketches. So he was like, here's a bit of money. I said, I don't know what it's going to cost. He's like, oh, here's a little bit. We'll keep going. And it was really something that made me move on this, because at the start, I thought, okay, I'll make a module. It'll not be a lot of work. I'll put it on another movement. I'll figure it out. Like a little step, maybe not a big step, but a little step. The thing is, I wanted a watch that was elegant. I didn't want it to be tall and thick and big. I've had the experience with the 38mm case. That is what people want. So I ended up having to do the movement from scratch, more or less, because I found a lot of wheel trains from old railroad service watches used by the Danish railroads. It's the AS1130. It's the perfect movement. The winding and setting system is horrible. It's ugly. It works, but it's ugly. But the rest of the watch is just perfect. So I took the train and escapement from that. This is the movement. I started to think about authenticity again, because now I didn't only have the aesthetics of the case. I also had the movement, and there are so many choices in a movement. So I began looking into Copenhagen watchmaking, and Copenhagen watchmaking was actually quite advanced in 1800s. Up until 1850, it was like top of the line. Paris, London, Copenhagen, helped along by the Jürgensen family a lot, but it developed a style. When I looked at all these pocket watches, especially also the pocket chronometers from that time, there was this type of aesthetic that showed itself. It's quite continental. It looks a bit French, but it was a bit simple, a bit more brutish, and a bit more. It just had this feel, and I was like, I'm a Copenhagen watchmaker. Why should I do a Genevan style watch? Because most watches from in the horlogerie bracket, they're Genevan work. It's Genevan style, Genevan construction, Genevan finishing. It wouldn't feel very authentic to me as a maker. I've worked all my life with conservation. I've conserved some very interesting and important Copenhagen watches. I'm a master in the Copenhagen Guild. What is more authentic to me than a Copenhagen style watch? So I began thinking about how would these pocket watches translate into modern time? And this really set the tone for my work with movement construction and movement finishing, is figuring out what did they do. And this is not the perfect example of that. It's the first iteration, and this is what I'll do. I feel like I'll do for the rest of my career, really trying to rediscover this DNA, which is something I think is very close to what is going on in the US with your horological work, because you have a great history and you have a lot of new makers rising up, and something similar would totally work there. And collectors are really into it because it's different. So I made the watch. There's more of the movement. And so now it was just work on. And when you're doing this type of work, it's not straightforward. It's not like a repair, even though repairs aren't really straightforward, but this is not straightforward at all. You have, at least today we're spoiled with digital prototypes, so I at least do a lot of work digitally, 3D parametric modeling, and you get something that kind of works. And then you're trying making it in the physical world, and you figure everything you thought was working in the digital model, you realize, oh, this screw is under this bridge. How can I get to it? And oh shit, I need to move this. And then this touches this wheel. I can move this wheel a bit, but then this engagement is a bit off. And it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then at some point, if you enjoy the work and you keep at it, you get a functioning prototype. And then you start to make a prototype that looks kind of nice, so you can actually sell some of them. Because people want to see something that's not just a plan, they want to see it in real life, and it really helps with selling it. And then people like me, which are a bit, let's say, semi-anxiously perfectionist, they are very good at repairs because everything has to be right, and oh, this might be off, and this little line might do something, oh, I had to fix it. It's very good for repairs, but it's also very good to end up in a cycle of, oh, there's something wrong with this, I'll polish this, oh, it's perfect, but this one is not like that, I'll do this, and then, oh, and you just keep going and reworking and reworking. So to break that cycle, I made myself a deadline. I began telling people, oh, the next festival, International Festival of Time, I'll have my prototype, you can see it then. And then this deadline really, it almost broke me. It was like moon work again when I worked on the clock. It was 90-hour weeks just at the bench, keeping at it, and I finished. My flight left at 6 a.m. I finished at 9 p.m. or something, and I went home and packed my bags, and I collapsed for a bit, and I got up and flew off, very anxious about how would people actually react to this, because as the maker, I see only the faults. And there were a lot of faults, so there was a lot for me to see. But the reception was actually very good, much better than I could have hoped. And both watchmakers that were exhibiting, collectors that were visiting, and also the general public, because the International Festival of Time is a very funny place. There are collectors, there are just general people, so you'll talk with some rich guy, and then there'll be some Irish farmer next to him, and he's like, oh, a watch can cost more than $10. Oh. So, but everybody was very positive, and more than I could ever have hoped for. And all this positivity also meant a lot of attention, and this attention got translated into, oh, can you do this article? Do you want to join this podcast? Do you want to do all these things? So this again bred more attention, and I ended up, like in my wildest dream, just selling out everything. So now my problem is not selling the watch, it's actually making the watch and delivering these watches. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm making, delivering, and it's hard to not fall into a similar cycle as the one when you are developing and doing the first prototype of like perfecting, because when you're doing all these parts, the ones you do in the start are always a bit less nice than the ones at the end. And it's a good idea to maybe change some of them, but at some point you can't keep doing this because you'll be the guy that never delivered. I'm almost there as the guy that never delivered, but they're coming now, so it's no problem. No, and then this is also mixed in with now when these are delivered, what's the next thing? And this opens up like a whole new set of problems of really focusing on this production, also developing something new, working on a new prototype, selling this. And all these new experiences, they look like, I feel like I'm back at school. Now it's new things I need to learn. I need to really become better at business practices, and like everything is just a new possibility for challenges, learning, and a lot of hard work. And that is essentially the life of an independent watchmaker. Challenges, learning on the go, and a lot of hard work. So I'll just finish off with this little saying, which is to conserve is to honor the past, to create is to shape the future, And for me, to be independent has been to walk the line between the both, and that's with courage, craft, and conviction.
Questions?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can just ask.
So how was it like to meet Daniel Spitz?
Oh, well, it was kind of cool.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, and I liked Anthrax, so.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So it was actually quite surreal because I was like, okay.
He's intense too sometimes, or I haven't seen him in a long time.
Oh, he was actually very nice. Yeah, he was a nice guy, but it was very funny because it was kind of like two worlds colliding, like my musical tastes and it's two things you don't really think would cross. Yeah. Well, and he does some amazing work as well. Yeah.
How long did it take to make that first case?
The one for Byrja or the
Viking-inspired one.
Yeah, the first one. It's playing around evenings and weekends for maybe half a year, something like that. It goes up and down because it was really a passion project. So at some point you're really plowing through, and I went through so many iterations of all these different things. And then you make it, and you realize, oh, this is way too thin, or this is way too over-dimensioned, and so most things takes longer than you realize. When you think, oh, I need to draw a case and do this, and then some squeeze for the O-ring, okay, that's a day's work. And 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, how do I get this to fit? It's insane. But it's also very rewarding. So if you're passionate about it, you can plow through all this hard work, and you can really get some satisfaction out of it.
Are you doing all the things and everything? Or, what kind of a support team do you have?
So for a long time, my support team was me. A lone watchmaker, just doing it. But, well, I'm the one working in the company. Of course, I had a lot of support from some collectors who were interested, other colleagues and people like that. But it's like secondary, like outside thing. The company is only me and now my girlfriend, who has a lot of experience in managing IT projects. So it really helps managing a project like this, actually.
I mean, the reason I ask is when I see that, when I see that list of all the podcasts and things and all the media requests,
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to spend 3 days a week just answering emails.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine. So I mean, when are you getting the work done? Is the real question.
Yeah. So the thing is, you do 40% of the time you do the work, and the rest of the time you're doing stuff like that, and it comes in waves. So if something new is published, there's a lot of interest, and you have to engage with a lot. And then other times it's not much at all. So it changes like that. So it's manageable, but it would be nice to have somebody to help with that. Yeah.
What do you work? How many hours a week do you usually work?
And 10 hours a day. I guess 50 is
50 a day?
is the standard. Then up to some point, up to leaving here, because I'm here for a week in the US. So a week taking out of this program really scares me because I get so much behind. So I've cranked out some 12 and 14-hour days, and also Saturdays, and sometimes half a Sunday as well. So it gets up there. So it changes a bit. But now I have a girlfriend, and we're starting a family and all this, and it takes a little bit of time. But before that, when I was alone, I didn't care. I just worked like insane. 90 hours a week is not that bad at all, actually. No, when you get into it, it works. And then when you've done it for some months, you end up with this funny feeling when you're sitting at 2 a.m. at the night in the night and you're working on something, and you just get overwhelmed with this, like, oh, what am I doing? I'm exhausted. And you feel like everything is like going to come crashing down, and then somehow you say, okay, I think I'll have to go sleep now. And I go home and I sleep, and I wake up the next day, and it's fine. I'll keep filing. Yeah.
That's right. You got Sam back there.
Hey there. What's the biggest piece of advice you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you got started?
To actually finish something, I've done a lot of procrastination because I was unsure about something. So I would do something that I realize now you could have done that, gotten it out there somehow, presented it, delivered it, done something, and get on with it. But I kept circling around it, doing little bit of this, changing this. So my absolute biggest thing I wanted to change, in reality I don't want to change anything because else I wouldn't be here. It's not me. But if I could change something, it would be just getting it, ship it, get it out. Because as long, it's not like you don't, it's not that you don't need like quality assurance. You have to make sure you do good work. But I realized that I took as much time circling the thing and only perfecting like like a 0.1%. It's nothing compared to how much time I used. So just getting it out, using the experience on the next piece to elevate it that little 0.1% more on the next piece, and then you have two pieces, one that is almost perfect and one that is now perfect, instead of one that is now perfect. So that would be my biggest advice to myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I see a lot of parallels in my career. And I gotta tell you, everything I designed and built was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You know, when everybody else was done, you know.
No, there really is something special about the extreme hours of the day, like very early or very late.
If you don't do those, and you got to do them young, but you need the skills before that.
Yeah.
And you got it's beautiful. One thing that really, really resonated with me was there's a major paradigm shift that happens with people. It's a major, major paradigm shift, and we had two interns this summer at the shop, and both of them had the same experience. One of them has been a luthier for 15 years.
Wow.
And it happened this summer. And the other one is he's been a architectural mill worker for 7 years, and then he went to the North Bennett Street School for cabinet work. And he's standing there and running the lathe, and he turns to me and he says, man, as a cabinet maker, if I screwed up, I was just screwed. I can make any tool. It's that paradigm shift when something clicks in your head and says, I can make anything.
Exactly, 100%.
And that's when you really become a maker.
Yeah.
You know, really everything changes at that point. And
Totally agree.
And I don't know when that happens or why it happens, but that's the switch that turns, and you take off.
Yeah.
And I would say, would you say you agree with that?
I totally, wholeheartedly agree with that, because if you, it's like a way of being self-reliant, because you can always buy a tool for something, and you can buy yourself very poor in tools. But if you have this focus, like you speak of, anything is possible. And in theory, you don't even need like tools. If you look back, that's also one of the things I find fascinating about old work is all of the shop-made tools. Like the very old things, they started out with like pieces of steel and maybe a file and a hammer. And then they made
a file that they made.
Exactly. So from nothing, they build the tools, they build the thing. It's very fascinating that you don't need all this, like all these support companies around you doing this, just making it. It's very fascinating, and it's a bit that spirit you need to really succeed.
I think for me, in the modern horological education, I think they're robbing students of that experience, that paradigm shift that says I can make anything.
Yeah, and
They're robbing them of it because they're not teaching them to make things.
Yeah, and that's the thing I talk about when I say seek out extracurricular work, because there's a lot of stuff about tool making and all this in the books.
Oh,
so
yeah.
when you get over the curriculum and you have a teacher that's interested in like helping you along, they'll guide you to this and you get this experience in school. But it's only for the people who seek it, because it's not in the curriculum today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, there's another item of business, but thank you very much. I'm glad you decided to come.
Of course.
You know, I know what it cost you, and I know what it's going to cost you when you get back,
Yeah.
but I appreciate it.
Worth every penny.
Everything you said is exactly what I wanted you to say.
Thank you.
Where is it, Chris, or are you doing this?
Chris.
Chris? Where's Chris? Wheeler. Well, anyway, Chris is going to come in and the lottery winners. Where did he go? He told me not to let you leave, and then he left. But it's he said don't. He told me not to let him go, right? I promise. You promise.
Any second now. I can feel it in my face. They're coming.
Oh.
2 more seconds.
Things about having a museum in a circle with windows, you can see it.
I thought you'd never make it.
We had a last minute purchase. We had to.
Oh, you had to extract some money. I like it.
Scott, you want to come up here and announce it? All right, here we go. I don't know if I need that.
You don't need.
I'll hold it for you. Well, okay, it's very.
We will
very
start
kind of- you will?
beatboxing,
Yeah.
buddy.
All right, watch number 1. Bomberg. Somebody hold the watch. Let's shake up the cup. All right. What do we got here? Tony Arment. Hey, all right. Good deal. All right, let's see. Watch number 2. Sincero. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. We're all famous. Good thing I put the coat on then, huh? All right, 1 ticket. Placido Aquino Jr. Did I say that correctly?
Hey, excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Put your mark on the floor.
Nice. Yes, I need an X there. So we got 1 ticket. That was easy. Mr. Craig Stone, congratulations. Number 4. What do we got here? Casio G-Shock. Again, 1 ticket. Weird, yeah. James Sprague. Oh! Hey. Watch number 5, CCP. All right. 1 ticket. Craig Stone. Hey. I don't don't think we did. But you know what? We got to get more watches after this. And all right.
All right.
So, let's see. Watch number 8. What do we got there, Christopher? Bertucci. Shake up the cup. Let's see here. Michael Taylor.
Hey, Michael.
We have a few more watches we've got to go get and bring in here. Oh, you got them? James got them. Fantastic.
So for those that aren't aware, these are raffle tickets that you can purchase for watches that were donated to the ELM Trust to raffle off for the benefit of the trust. So if you haven't already bought tickets, this is the first go-round. We'll do another set of these tomorrow. So make sure you go by and you purchase your own tickets. Pick out the watch that you want, put it in the cup. Mr. Sprague can help you, and he's right up here in the purple shirt.
So tomorrow and Saturday.
Tomorrow and Saturday. Ooh la la.
All right. Which number are we up to? Number 9. Seiko Sports Automatic.
Our lovely Vanna.
Let's see. Steve Boynton.
Hey, Steve.
I have trouble reading this one.
Do we want him to have this watch?
I don't
think
know.
we're gonna sell more tickets for this one.
All right.
Mr. Aaron Rexick.
Where's he at? He's not here?
Yep.
Must be present. to
Gotta
win.
be
We'll do
present
another
to
one.
win.
That was pronounced wrong. It's Aaron, by the way. So
Thank you. Thank you for that correction.
you're quite welcome.
Yep, this is the one.
All right, the Ingersoll. Oh, man, we got a lot of tickets in this one. So give it a good shake here.
Justin, I think you should announce this one like a fairy princess.
I, well, I can handle that. That part would be fine, you know. Oh, we got 3 together. Is that all? Well, I mean, Sam. It's all for Sam. I mean,
Same name, Sam.
Yeah.
You got it, Miss Sam.
Yes.
Congratulations. You wanted to hear him do it like a fairy princess, didn't you, Sam? You wanted to hear him do it like a fairy princess? Come on.
I need wings to be able to get that. So, you know, what is a fairy princess actually? You know. What do we have? Yeah, keep us moving to Jason. I'll get. All right. We don't want no dead time up here. Nope. Up, Mr. Aaron Rexick. Star Wars Citizen.
Stormtrooper edition.
Michael Taylor. All right, we got another Tissot.
All right.
Chris, take a step this way. That way you're on the screen too, buddy.
Hey, look at that.
All right. Oh, there I am.
All right, let's see here. Sheila Edwards.
There's Miss Sheila, our newest employee at AWCI. How about that?
This is the Reef Tiger automatic. Let's start with a watch.
Michael Taylor.
So what I'm hearing you say, Michael, is you're not buying a lottery ticket tonight because you've used it all up now. Is that right?
Just real quick, I just want to thank all of y'all that participated in this today. We've got 2 more days of this. We got new watches will be out in the morning, and also want to thank Scott Walters. It's his generous donation of all these watches. So, all right, thanks everybody.
One last thing, there's still plenty of food in there from this evening. We even added some pizza and some donuts. So especially you students that are going back to rooms, and I know you're poor because we've all been students and we've all been poor, take some food home with you. So thanks.